Good evening. This September 26, 2023 Parks and Rec Commission meeting is called to order. Let's start with the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So we will start with
Roll call.
roll call, please.
Zebel Wolf,
Here.
Hale,
Present.
Duzick, Vranick,
Here, present.
Snyder,
Present.
Cornwell, Noyes.
Present. Are there any amendments to the agenda?
No, there are not.
Thank you. Ceremonies, announcements, appointments, or presentations?
Not till next week.
All
Oh.
right. Declaration of conflict. Can we now consent to the calendar? Has everybody reviewed the minutes from June 27th, 2023?
Yes.
I would move to approve the minutes from June 27, 2023 as presented.
And I'll second that.
Snyder,
Aye.
Hale,
Aye.
Noyes,
Aye.
Zebel Wolf,
Abstain.
Vranick,
Aye. Are there any citizen issues?
Okay.
Okay, any unfinished or old business? All right.
Going through this pretty quick
Yeah,
there.
we're moving along.
Over.
New business. Talk about the review of the boat launch fees.
Yes, thank you. So earlier this summer, the mayor received an email, which was in your packet, from Tobler Marina, and they were requesting the city reconsider how we charge. They wanted to see either a season pass created for them or some mechanism in charging. They did not have to pay each time. They were getting charged the non-resident rate. I believe the cars or the trucks had their Hayden address, but they do have some property here in Post Falls for their business too, and they have a business license. They approached us a year ago wanting the same thing. At that point, they said they would be launching somewhere between 500 and 700 boats a year. We didn't have a mechanism to do any type of billing or anything like that. Since then, with the new dash system, we're able to put them in, so we can set up essentially a tab. So administratively, what we did this year is with administration's consent, we went ahead and just charged them the resident rate, and then they were charged on a monthly basis. And we didn't hear back that it was an issue, but the mayor did ask us, and Shelley asked us to bring it forward to you guys to consider if you're comfortable with that decision, and or if you would like us to change anything, looking at a flat commercial rate. They are not the only boat business in town. I think there's 4, maybe 5, but they're all much smaller that use it. I do know that some of their business that they do happens before hours or after hours, so they're not getting charged on that. In his email, he does point out that they pay more in launch fees here than they do for the rest of the areas they launch, which are the county launches, the state, probably the BLM, and some of those. And those do have monthly, or I shouldn't say monthly, yearly passes. On the same note, the county and the state, they do receive a portion of the boat registration monies, which is something we do not receive. Hayden Lake was looking at adjusting their rates, but I don't know what they ever chose to do this last summer. And they're in a different system. They don't have a collection there. They do more of an enforcement, looking at a tab. So that's kind of where it's at. I guess I'm open to any questions And just let you guys kind of discuss what your thoughts are on it and what we should do, if anything. You're not directed to make any change if you don't want to, but if you see something or you agree with something, we can bring that forward.
Do we have any concerns from any of the other boat companies that are launching that have expressed any,
Yeah.
kind of pushback with?
I have not heard anything, and nothing has been brought forward from staff that they have heard anything. We have a handful of people this year that did complain about the fees and that we are high. Once again, we're not offset by the voter registration that you see with the county. And I guess the other thing is, when you guys went and reviewed it, you looked at it as the same as our basketball or any of those that are special, providing a service for a special group of people. It's not like when you added the discount for the car that anybody could just go there. You have to have a boat. You have to. That's what you want to do. Just like if you want to play adult softball or basketball, you pay a fee there, or even youth. They pay a larger fee than it being offset. So that was where it came into play.
So you indicated that they are launching before and after.
Yes, because we don't.
Right, so they are getting some sort of.
And I'm making that
Yeah.
assumption
Yeah.
because of what I was told last year.
Okay.
I don't have any information for this year that, whether they came in only when we were open or before, but I know there's a number of people that come in before, and we'll usually leave reminders if they're parked there to pay us.
And we don't know what their tab is this year?
I do not know that. I'm
Okay.
sorry, I should have checked on that,
Okay.
but
Have we seen an overall increase or decrease in launching usage since this fee went into place?
we haven't. What we did see was probably a few more of the Idaho plates in the parking lot than just straight Washington, because you're coming from Washington, you're on the freeway, more incentive to go just 5 miles more and launch over in Coeur d'Alene. But we still have a fair share of Washington boats and once again, those boats may be registered in Idaho. Just because they have a Washington plate doesn't mean that the sticker on the boat doesn't say that it's an Idaho registered boat. But we haven't seen a decrease, if that's the question. The launch is still heavily used.
But we ended up giving him the resident rate because they have the business here, right?
Correct.
Was he happy with that?
It seemed like a
Was
fair
there-
and equitable
Yeah,
thing. We can't tell which way, and we recognize there's a volume. I guess the discussion is, did that make sense? And two, do you want us to look at some type of a commercial rate?
How much are we talking about, like, seasonally, that you've collected for boat launch fees, like, for businesses? Can you pinpoint that?
No, we can't pinpoint on a business. I could go back and we could find out. And that's another thing, is this can be tabled, we can continue at the workshop to discuss more. And because I have good help here, she will write down what we need to bring.
So are we talking $1,000, $10,000, or $100,000?
We're probably talking around 10,000, 7 to 10,000 would be my guess on parking, because the boat and car would probably brought in about 100,000 this last year.
That's total? That's the total
Total.
fees? Not for Tobler, but for the
No,
total?
Total
fees.
for all of that. So I'm figuring maybe 10%.
So
be
whatever
commercial.
change we might be considering, it would affect that 10,000, maybe approximately.
Maybe. And we can come back and figure that out. I mean, obviously, we need to give you more information, and maybe it's, just like the last time, we didn't come to a conclusion or anything in the first couple settings. I mean, it took quite a bit of time to really look, and you guys went into detail on that, and how did we offset the cost of providing one free parking spot? And that, even those numbers haven't been up there as high. I mean, so it's not every resident doesn't take advantage of it, but still, we're probably talking 2,500 this year, roughly, households. That's not bad.
So the fact that we, as citizens, have to pay for the upkeep, for the build-out of that initially, the upkeep of this, that to have a business come in, that they're not paying their fair share. The reality is that there's wear and tear I know Mr. Green indicated they just splash the boat in his. Or out, yeah. And there's still wear and tear every single time they drive down that ramp. And sure, it's not, you don't see the wear and tear every time, but you start doing that 700 times, there's still wear and tear. And we don't provide, we require our citizens who live here also to pay every single time. So I don't know why we would do a pass. Now, I don't have a problem with the resident fee, provided they own property here and
Yeah.
are paying some sort of property tax that makes its way to the city of Post Falls. But to give them a break just because they're a business, otherwise, I don't see where, I wouldn't be in favor of any kind of a pass unless somebody brought some information other than what we have right here now.
So, like I said, we could, that's one of your options is table when we bring more information. To throw also out there, I added to this, and it's not, there was no email to it. It was simply passed on to me by Brian Myers, and unfortunately decided to run to Greece to not have this. But he also was approached by one resident who wanted us to provide a resident discount for launching. And I have no other information in that, what that expectation was, and I don't know how, if that,
I think, as I recall, when we talked about that, the resident, we didn't do a resident launch fee because they can get their parking fee waived with the passes by being a resident, and that is where the discount came from that.
right. And going back and looking at the notes and everything, one of the things in there too was the fact that not everybody has a boat, but most people have a car, so they could go to the park. So it benefited a majority of the citizens versus a smaller amount. I can't remember.
Right.
So I'm in favor of looking at the numbers, and I think reviewing
Yeah.
just overall, especially after the first year, I think it's smart of us to look and see how it performed and see what happened.
Yeah, and this is the second year now,
Yeah.
right?
Correct.
Right, we are on the second.
Yeah,
wow.
And
right,
we-
we're almost
yeah.
to the end of the second
And
year,
I
yeah.
can tell you that we've had a few people, on social media that didn't like our fees, but far less this year. Like I said, it was a handful.
Sure.
I would say less than 10 people total that reached it, that I was aware of, whether Media Center brought to me or whatever.
Well, and I think the restructuring of the fees, the way that we did this, including the boat launch fees, did exactly what we were, a lot of what we were trying to do. Not that we dislike our Washington neighbors, but it was local citizens who were paying for our park and all of the amenities that went with this. And from what you said, we're seeing a lot more Idaho plates there. And
Yeah.
I
the
think
hope.
that's.
I don't know a lot, but
been-
we're seeing more, so it's probably
Right.
getting closer to 50 as far as the boat launch. The car
Right.
parking, it's still, about the same.
Okay.
I can tell you our rentals were way up this year. The park was heavily used.
Yeah.
And knowing that we're a little bit smaller too, it would be great to maybe get some feedback from Hayden Lake and also from Coeur d'Alene, what they're doing with their launches as well.
We can- yeah, we
And
can
then
bring
that
that
way we
back
can
too.
see if we're equitable and maybe some
We
of
are
the
higher
things.
than them, I can tell you that.
Yeah,
But Coeur d'Alene,
but we're smaller.
they have a
too,
launch
yeah.
fee, but they also charge a parking fee. So when
Right.
you take the two together,
Mhm.
we probably come out just a little bit lower. It's a different way of collecting.
Mm-hmm.
But we'll bring all of that back.
That'd be great.
Right, and I think that was intended when we,
Yeah.
That'd be
when we
great.
went through all that, yep.
Mhm.
And it doesn't hurt to review this.
Mm. Gotta see where we're at. So do you want a motion on this to table it?
We'd need a motion to table it and bring it back.
Yeah, I'd move to table this discussion till next month's, the October workshop,
Okay?
and get more information in the interim.
I would second that.
And that actually will work, before you vote, that'd work out well, because we just finished with the last collection, so it will come in this month's financials, so we'll have a full picture.
Yeah, and if we could get that information,
We'll break it out.
yeah, and then the information from Coeur d'Alene and Hayden.
Yes.
I think was the other one,
Yeah,
right?
that'd be
So,
great.
and I know you have a motion on the table.
And we'll check even with the counties and the BLM, because I think the BLM was looking at some fee adjustments.
Okay.
So,
Noyes?
Aye.
Brannick?
Aye.
Hale?
Aye.
Snyder?
Aye.
Zebo Wolf?
Aye.
All right. So we're going to move along to administrative and staff reports.
I guess,
So-
before you get there, it looks like we might have skipped over citizen issues. I know we have a member in the public, too, so I don't know if they're,
Oh. You
We
didn't
did.
skip.
we did?
Yeah.
Then I missed it, okay.
That's okay.
Okay.
You know, not enough coffee.
No, it's all good. All right. So update to the community forest fire.
Actually, we'll do construction first.
Let's do construction first. 2024 construction projects.
Okay. Okay.
Good evening, Robbie Quinn, Parks Planner. We got a busy season ahead of us next year, so I just kind of want to give you guys an outline of what we're really looking at and planning on for park construction and development. So the big one, Black Bay, went out to bid today, so that one is moving forward. The bids are due in November, and we're hoping to sign that contract or get that approved by council in December, with our construction window basically starting in January through November of 2024. And obviously the early part is important when the water's down, so they can do that in-water work. So that's kind of the big one for next year. Couple of other projects, we have the community garden parking lot, that one's moving forward. So we're making a few changes to the design documents that we developed a couple years ago, just updated codes and that sort of thing, kind of fine-tooth comb going through those again. So hope to have that done this month, and then get that one out to bid this winter with some, construction sometime next summer. That's a little shorter window, so probably a 2 to 3 month project on that one. And then Woodbridge, we're looking at replacing that playground next year, just being outdated. And along with that, we're gonna be relocating it closer to the parking lot and restroom. Currently, it's on the complete other side of the park, so that'll kind of help with users. With the little kids, it's a lot easier to be by the restroom and the parking lot. And then also looking at adding a shelter with that project, budget allowing. And so that one, I'm just kind of starting at design right now. So again, it'll be work on that through the winter and another summer project next year. And lastly, the Montrose Sports Complex. So that one's also moving forward, working on design this winter, and that's a developer-led project. So with our PUD agreement, the developer owes us a portion of that sports complex. And so they're looking at starting construction next spring and hopefully having our first couple ball fields in and complete by the fall of '24. And then kind of giving that a fall, winter, spring to grow in and be able to use summer of '25. So yeah, that's kind of, like I say, we got a lot going on next year. Are there any questions?
That's great.
That's good news.
You want to share your good news?
Yeah, so Black Bay, we did receive final approval on our grant from the state and the feds. So
Great.
that one, like I say, 3 years in the works getting that grant, but just in time. Like I say, we went out to bid today, so we're like I said, looking forward to that one and excited that we finally got the grant.
Congratulations.
Yeah, very
Thank
cool.
you.
Perfect.
Now we get to talk about the fire.
Now let's talk about the community forest fire. Next in line.
August didn't start out real well for us. But it could have been a lot worse, so I'm sure most of you had a chance to kind of watch the planes and helicopters and everything going on, fighting that, and if you didn't see that, you at least got to experience the smoke. So the Parkway fire consumed approximately 80 acres of land. We were very lucky that they had some of the resources already in the air that they could bring into there. It was a very rugged portion of the park. So after the fire was contained, after about a week and a half, 10 days, we were able to go in and have some of our crews go in and help with them and assess some of the stuff and try and map out a plan for that. For the first part, we closed down the entire community forest. We needed to make sure that the fire crews had safe access, that they weren't dealing with the public in there as they were dropping trees, as they were finding hot spots, as trees were coming just down from the wind. Once they started pulling back crews, they did leave some extra crews on, just the way their timing goes. They work I think it's a 21-day cycle, and then they get a week off. So they kept a couple of them there longer, and normally to do a containment, they would, from their hose line, they would go in 100 to 200 feet. And once they have that area soaked and under control and cleared, it's considered a contained fire. Because of them being able to keep some crews on, as opposed to bringing them off, just in case something else came up in the area, they're able to go back almost 400 feet. So we were very fortunate in that. They got a lot of work done. That probably would have taken a lot longer. Then we were hit with some rains, which helped. As I said, we closed off the community forest until we could get those crews pretty much out. They're still going in and checking off and on. They did a wonderful job on that. You know, all the resources that went into the community to support it were there. At this time, we have, it's been a week now, week and a half, that we have pulled back the closure. The forest is open, but the actual fire area, that's where it burnt. But in here, this lighter green, because of the trail systems, that's where we've got it blocked off, and it's closed beyond those points. That will stay into effect until next spring. Some areas burnt incredibly hot. I mean, you can see the stuff. There's still going to be, until the snows hit, some areas that are smoldering. We know that some trees will have to come down. We have crews working a little bit on that. We're looking at also contracting some of that out. Just the natural cycle of winter, the rains, can bring some of this stuff down, the wind. And then with the freeze thaw, we're going to see some rocks off of the cliff faces coming down. So we expect by next spring, late spring, we'll be able to open it. We are seeing some areas, some green coming back. We're seeing other areas that aren't, and those will probably have to be some type of a grass just to hold it together. But crews worked really hard to come up with a way to get the actual forest open as quickly as possible. The public, you know, so far, most of them have respected that and stayed out of the burn area. We're monitoring it, so I'm open for any questions.
Phew.
Yeah, maybe by this spring, we could do a tour, make that like a spring type thing. We won't make you go through the steepest areas. But it was, as bad as it was, it could have been so much worse. And the response from the whole community was amazing. So. Hey. I don't see Tracy.
Guess it's me.
Pardon?
I guess it's me.
It's you. Oh, that's right. I forgot you were here. Tracy got to make this presentation. presentation to council last time.
Yes, I get to talk about something a little more fun than the fire. All right, good evening. I'm Haley Carver. I'm the recreational outreach specialist for the office. And I'm going to go over the Post Falls Festival, which happens the second weekend in July. And in case you guys missed it this year, you missed one of our largest festivals yet. So the biggest annual Post Falls event, it started in about 1975. It's been bringing the community together since the 70s. This year we had the biggest festival, like I said. It's got 160 exhibitors or vendors. We had 92 three-day vendors. That's everywhere from like artisan crafts to businesses. We had 18 food vendors and 50 of the one-day craft vendors. And those are on just Saturday, the one-day crafters. We had about, and this is like an average over the last 3 years. Obviously, COVID was the year that we canceled. So from 21, 22, and 23, we've averaged about 15,000 people, families in attendance over the 3 days. We brought in 10 live bands this year, 3 days of entertainment starting Friday, Saturday, and then ending on Sunday. And then for our movie in the park, which happens on Fridays, we brought in Aladdin was the movie, and we had about 300 or so families attend that movie. So our weekend of festivities, this community event brings the whole community together from far and wide, Kootenai County even. We started on Thursday with the celebrating of the 100 years of the Chapin Building. The Post Falls Museum kind of hosted that at City Hall's Plaza. And then Friday we kicked off at the park at Camillin with our craft vendors, our inflatables for the kids, live music in the beer garden. And then Friday night before the movie we did the big wheel race. And this year we brought in some of the adult big wheels or the adult trikes. And we tried to play around with those a little bit to get the adults also involved. And then our movie in the park on Friday night. And then Saturday, the same with down at Camillin Park with all the vendors, live music in the beer garden, the inflatables. And then our homemade craft fair, which is Saturday. We kind of grew that from the Grand Pavilion to also the picnic shelter. So it kind of spread it out a little bit, but it also tied it into the other side of the park, not just in the Grand Pavilion. And then the parade is on Celtice, and so that's also on Saturdays. The ice cream social was put on by the Post Falls Historical Society at the museum, and then the car show and shine was here at City Hall in the parking lot. Sunday is the last day of festival, is a little bit quieter, but it's still packed with a lot of entertainment. All the vendors open, inflatables, we have live music again, beer garden, and then the community worship service in the Grand Pavilion. A little bit of pictures from the event. We had great weather. I am always, in my 6 years of doing the festival, I'm always amazed at our location, like our venue with the tall pine trees and the water right there is by far, you don't find it very often or anywhere really. So I think we have a great setting. Some of our partners, we've always had the bus or the shuttle bus, but then COVID kind of stopped that. And so last year, we felt like we really needed to bring the shuttle bus back. And so this year we were able to do that, but we also partnered with CityLink North to do that. And they provided 4 stops, one being the park and then 4 other stops throughout the city. And they had a little QR code that you could scan, could kind of see where your bus was and when it was going to arrive and that sort of thing. So it was super helpful. And we were grateful for them to they just kind of took it on, and, we just advertised it, and we had really good feedback. The Post Falls Police Department was down there at the park. This year they had more of an actual station. They brought they brought their trailer down, and so they have more of a presence. And so they were there all 3 days, and I think the community really enjoyed interacting with them. They had activities to do. We've partnered with P1 FCU many years. They provide or bring down our big ATM machine, so that's always helpful to the vendors and the customers. Post Falls Community Volunteers, they do our beer garden, and we contract with them to do that. Post Falls Historical Society, again, did the Taste of Toast here at City Hall, and then the ice cream social. And the Post Falls Community Ambassadors, they did the parade, which I think they had fairly large numbers for the parade this year, I heard. The Calvary Lutheran Church does the car show and shine, and also the worship service. So without these extra partners or extra organizations and stuff, it kind of helps bring Post Falls Festival, makes it larger, brings it together throughout the community and everything. And then we're really thankful for our sponsors. This year we had our Movie in the Park sponsors was U-Haul and Numerica Credit Union. So a little on our revenue and expenses. We have our revenue for the 3-day vendors, the 1-day vendors, our beer garden, bounce houses, and our car show. They all brought in a little over $36,000. Our expenses for entertainment contracts, those are all of our bands, sanitation, fire inspections, marketing, and supplies. What's not on here is some of the staffing fees or staffing expenses, obviously, but this is just the kind of the numbers that I work with when I coordinate the event. And then what some of our vendors say. So our show is, it's kind of right before a lot of the cities have their, their festival days or whatever. It's kind of one of the first ones right after 4th of July. And a lot of our vendors are local, so they go to each of these other cities and attend their festivals and fairs. But a lot of our vendors, too, are also travel. So it's really nice to hear what some of our vendors that travel afar, that travel the United States, that come to us and say, oh my gosh, you guys are so helpful, you're so organized, the park is clean, everything just looks so nice, and you guys work with us, and we're glad to be back, and we want to come back. So it's really nice to hear all that great things that they say, because as a coordinator of the event, I want them to be able to say, yeah, we want to come back to your event every year and stuff. So the little few things that they have said, some nice things. And then that is all I have on Post Falls Festival. Is there any questions?
How's that $26,000 in profit compared to the past, I guess not maybe 2020 but the past few years?
Well, it's up a little bit, obviously, because I think last year we had 75 vendors, and this year for the 3-day, and this year we had 92. So we're up a little bit. I don't know the difference between those two numbers, but yeah. Any other questions?
James, if you take a look, though, at what our labor costs are, it's probably closer to making about 5, which then goes to helping with some of the other events, whether that's the Winterfest or whatever. So all of that goes into our special accounts. But I know we took it over in '95, and at that point it was run by the chamber, but it was down to 13 total booths, food and craft. So it's come a long way.
Good job.
Thank you.
Thanks, Haley.
Thank you, Haley.
Great job.
All right, so we're moving.
Could I add just one more thing? It's not
Sure.
here, but just speaking of special events at the park, Prost in the park this weekend, so that'll be at the Grand Pavilion. And I believe it starts at 1 o'clock and goes till 8. So that's put on by the Rotary.
Sounds like too much fun.
Too much?
All right, any commission comments? Nope. All right, I think our meeting's adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you. Oh,